The sages we met in our travels had recommended we make for the part of Panchavati that bordered the Godavari river. Once there, I found the region wild and mysterious but welcoming as well, with its many banyan trees, its shrubs that sparkled with star like blossoms, and its proliferation of mysterious species of animals and birds I had never seen. When Ram said that we had wandered enough and that we would make our home here until the end of our first days, I agreed happily. I had been right about nature testing us. Now it seemed that we had passed the test, and she showed us her kind and bounteous face. Here in Panchavati, I saw brilliant sunsets spreading like a smile across the sky and molten silver moonrises. I saw stars glimmering like shy eyes from behind wheels of cloud. I saw birds and beasts, multi hued, multi pelted, so different from the creatures I had known that I was struck with awe. The plants here were particularly attuned to me. Bushes would pull in their sharp thorns and burst into flower when I watered them or loosened the earth around their roots. Squirrel like creatures, their long white hair smooth as silk thread, would scurry up to take berries from a palm. Brilliant blue songbirds with curved beaks would land on my shoulder and allow me to stroke their plumage. There were others who watched us from afar, only their glistening eyes visible through the thick foliage. I sometimes glimpsed at a great distance in the sky bird like creatures with enormous wings and what appeared to be human heads. I asked Ram what they were. He said that Vishwamitra had once mentioned descendants of the heavenly eagle Garuda. They kept an eye on the forest and made sure all was going according to nature's dictates. Lakshman didn't approve of my friendship with the forest creatures. Some of them, he warned me, might be shape shifters, tricky, even dangerous. I nodded, mostly to keep the peace. I had learned by now that Lakshman didn't like being contradicted. But I didn't believe him, and often, when the men were away hunting, enticed the tiny black skinned deer, who were my favorite and only came up to my knee to eat from my hand. What I loved most about Panchavati was that here, once the brothers had examined the area and found it safe, Ram was finally able to relax. For the first time since I had known him, he could forget about being a righteous ruler. In this place that seemed apart from the world of cities and towns, he could be instead a human. It transformed him. He picked wild flowers and braided them with inexpert tenderness into my hair. He traveled for miles to find honeycombs for me to suck on, for he knew I had a sweet tooth. With Lakshman's help, he built a one room hut right on the bank of the Godavari because I said I liked the view. Here, Ram and I slept at night, lulled into dreams by the swishing of the river and the fragrance of the flowering vines that I had planted around the posts. Where Lakshman slept, or whether he slept at all, I didn't know. Wrapped in my own happy cocoon, I'm afraid I didn't pay him as much attention as I should have. On a few occasions, when I awoke at night, I saw him standing at the edge of our clearing, bow in hand, listening with such a still intensity that he could have been the carving of a warrior. He looked very alone. I would feel guilty and think that tomorrow I would cook him a favorite dish, whatever I could manage with my meager culinary supplies. I would ask Ram to take the watch so that his brother could get a good night's sleep. I would insist that we build a second hut where Lakshman could rest in comfort. Then I would say to myself, Ram knows what he is doing. I shouldn't interfere. Thus, the years passed as though in a happy haze. 10, 11, 12, until I lost count. Panchavati had its problems, of course. In the summers, it was humid and airless in the shade of the banyans. In the rainy season, mud squelched underfoot. I had learned how to pound and boil bark to keep us decent, our original clothing having disintegrated long ago, but the thick material was difficult to dry and we spent months draped in uncomfortable damp sheets. The dampness attracted insects that whined and bit. Recently, a new problem troubled me. Tired of our diet of fruits and roots, I had planted a vegetable garden from seeds that Ahalya had given. The vegetables grew enthusiastically, and I was thankful to know that I hadn't lost my touch. But then something strange began to occur. No matter how careful I was, how diligently I constructed a thorn fence around the garden, I would wake in the morning to find the best things gone, or, worse still, abundant half eaten. Sometimes entire plants were ripped out of the ground. It upset me more than it should have when I saw them lying in the mud, injured beyond my healing abilities. Dear, Ram diagnosed when he saw my ravaged garden, and maybe rabbits. Not possible, Lakshman said. They wouldn't dare. I walk up and down here all night. Must be Rakshasas. They can come and go in the blink of an eye. You're always imagining Rakshasas. Ram laughed. Haven't we lived here peacefully for over a decade now? Out of loyalty to him, I said nothing. But for once, I thought Lakshman may be right. In recent weeks, I had felt a presence, a sense of being watched. not in an menacing way, but with curiosity. A few times I had glimpsed a girl, slim and brown as bark, peering from behind a tree. But she disappeared even before my heart had a chance to speed up, so I was sure. I didn't mention her to Ram. Perhaps I just wanted to talk to the girl, get to know her a little. If we became friends, perhaps I would feel less lonely. I guessed that Ram, and especially Lakshman, would be suspicious of her, who she was, where she had come from. Very probably, Lakshman would drive her away. I didn't want that. I was bathing in the river when the girl showed up next, popping up from behind a giant clump of elephant ears, startling me into swallowing a large mouthful of water. She watched with interest as I coughed and sputtered and grabbed for my bark cloth, winding the unwieldy, dripping garment around me the best I could. Her teeth, bared in amusement, were very white and pointed, and her dark skin gleamed. I could only see her head and neck. Even before I had managed to catch my breath, the girl began to barrage me with questions. What is your name? Where are you from? What are you doing here? Don't you know it is dangerous? This lake, especially. There are crocodiles in the water. I told her briefly about Ram's vow and how the three of us ended up in the forest. I don't bother the crocodiles, so they leave me alone, I added. The girl narrowed her eyes. You shouldn't be here. This part of the forest belongs to my brothers, Khar and Dushan, and they don't like intruders. We didn't know about your brothers, I said, nor have we seen them. Otherwise, we would have asked permission. What is the name of your tribe? They have been keeping an eye on you, she said. You will see them when they want you to. Let us hope that never happens. They are not exactly the friendly type. Ignoring the last part of my question, she went on to more queries. Where do you from? I told her. Ayodhya? Ha, she said. Never heard of it. But then, I don't keep much track of cities. I prefer the freedom of forest life. Tell me again, are both the men with you your mates? Oh no, I said, scandalized. The fairer one, he is my brother in law. I like dark better too, she said. My husband, he had beautiful dark skin. Day or night, it gleamed like someone had oiled it lovingly. But he's dead now. Before I could say how sorry I was, she disappeared. Thanks for listening. Now, some word power. The plants here were particularly attuned to me. ATTUNE attune means accustom, adjust. Brilliant blue songbirds with curved beaks would land on my shoulder and allow me to stroke their plumage. Plumage plumage means a bird's feathers collectively. but didn't believe him, and often, when the men were away hunting, enticed the tiny black skinned deer, who were my favorite and only came up to my knee to eat from my hand. ENTACE, entice means allure, tempt, attract. Thanks for listening.